Imagine you're sitting in a lab. A man in a white coat instructs you to press a button that delivers an electric shock to another person every time they answer a question incorrectly. The shock starts small, but each wrong answer increases the voltage. The person on the other side screams, begs, and eventually goes silent. You hesitate. You ask the man in the lab coat, "Is it okay to stop?" He simply says,
"The experiment requires that you continue."
"What would you do?" This disturbing scenario isn't from a horror movie. It's from a real psychological study that took place in the early 1960s, known as the Milgram Experiment. It was led by psychologist Stanley Milgram at Yale University. The study was designed to answer a chilling question. How far will people go in obeying authority, even if it means hurting another person? Milgram was inspired by the trial of Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann, who claimed he was just following orders. Milgram wanted to see if ordinary people, under the right conditions, could commit acts they'd normally consider unthinkable, simply because they were told to by an authority figure. So he designed an experiment that would test obedience in the most unsettling way. Participants thought they were part of a study on learning and memory. They were assigned the role of the teacher and instructed to administer electric shocks to a learner, who was actually an actor. In another room, with each wrong answer, the shocks increased in intensity, from a mild 15 volts all the way up to a lethal 450 volts. As the shocks escalated, the learner began screaming in pain, banging on the wall, and eventually fell completely silent. But the authority figure in the lab coat calmly told the participant,
"Continue."
The results were shocking. 65% of participants went all the way to 450 volts, even though they were clearly uncomfortable and believed they were seriously harming another person. Many showed signs of stress, sweating, trembling, nervous laughter, but still obeyed. Why? Because an authority figure told them to. The Milgram experiments revealed something deeply unsettling about human nature. They showed that people are far more obedient to authority than we like to believe, and that under the right circumstances, almost anyone is capable of doing harm to others, even against their own moral compass, of course. The experiment also sparked intense ethical debates. Critics argued that the participants were emotionally traumatized and deceived, and that the study pushed the boundaries of acceptable research. It's now considered one of the main reasons why modern psychological studies are subject to strict ethical guidelines. But decades later, the lessons of the Milgram experiment still resonate, whether in military settings, corporate hierarchies, or even day-to-day life. It forces us to ask, would I obey? Would I question authority? Or would I go along?